Good afternoon, Cross Timbers. Today is Monday, November 7th, 2011. This is Texan TV News, a product of the Texan News Service, and I'm Caleb McKegg. In today's headlines, benefit concert held for Dublin graduate, Nigeria's capital faces bomb threats, Oklahoma experiences a rare earthquake, troopers interview Abilene Christian University bus crash survivors, Sigma Chi hosts fight night at city limits. Now, today's top story. Micah Moore from the Empire Tribune reports that a benefit concert was held for Tyler Tuck, a Dublin high school graduate who sustained near-fatal injuries during an auto accident that occurred on October 16th. The Martin McKinney concert took place Saturday night at city limits, and a portion of proceeds went towards Tuck's recovery expenses. Texan TV News' McCoy Renfro captured video at the benefit. The wreck Tuck was involved in left him with head trauma, pelvic injuries, and several broken bones. Tuck was rear-ended by a truck when the sunlight impaired the driver's vision. Emergency personnel used the jaws of life to remove Tuck from the mangled vehicle, then sent him to Fort Worth. In international news, the Associated Press reports after a weekend of violence and fear in Nigeria, U.S. officials warned Sunday that luxury hotels frequented by foreigners and Nigeria's elite may be bombed by a radical Muslim sect. The death toll from attacks in the country's northeast rose to more than 100. The warning by the U.S. Embassy shows how seriously diplomats take the threat posed by the outlawed Islamist group, known locally as Boko Haram, which previously bombed the United Nations headquarters in the capital, Abuja, killing 24. The unusually specific warning from the U.S. Embassy identified possible targets in Abuja as the Hilton, Nikon Luxury, and Sheraton hotels. With popular restaurants and bars, the hotels draw diplomats and politicians. The embassy said an attack may come as Muslims in the oil-rich nation celebrate the Muslim holiday Eid al-Adha. We're all expected to live in peace, but as a nation we have our own challenges, President Jonathan said in a speech televised nationally. During this holy period, we still have incidents happening here and there, said the president, a Christian who appeared in a prayer cap and the traditional robes of the country's Muslim north. World leaders from the United Nations to the Vatican have called for an end to the violence, though Nigerian officials largely have downplayed the threat. President Jonathan has repeatedly said that all countries in the world face terrorism, while others have urged local journalists to exercise restraint in their reporting in the name of patriotism. The latest attacks occurred ahead of Sunday's celebration of the Feast of Sacrifice, when Muslims around the world slaughter sheep and cattle in remembrance of Abraham's near sacrifice of his son. An Associated Press count shows the group has killed at least 361 people this year alone. In national news, the Associated Press reports clouds of dust belched from the corners of almost every room in Joe Reno's house as the biggest earthquake in Oklahoma history rocked the two-story building. A roar that sounded like a jumbo jet filled the air, and Reno's red brick chimney collapsed and fell into the roof above the living room. By the time the shaking stopped, a pantry worth of food had been strewn across the kitchen, and shards of glass and pottery covered the floor. The magnitude 5.6 earthquake and its aftershocks still had residents rattled Sunday. 2 minor injuries were reported from Saturday's quakes by the Oklahoma Department of Emergency Management, which said neither person was hospitalized. And aside from a buckled highway and the collapse of a tower on the St. Gregory's University Administration Building in Shawnee, no major damage was reported. But the weekend earthquakes were among the strongest yet in a state that has seen a dramatic, unexplained increase in seismic activity. Oklahoma typically had about 50 earthquakes a year until 2009. Then the number spiked, and 1,047 quakes shook the state last year, prompting researchers to install seismographs in the area. Still, most of the earthquakes have been small. Saturday night's big one jolted Oklahoma State University Stadium shortly after the number 3 Cowboys defeated number 17 Kansas State. Fans were still leaving the stadium. Geologists now believe a magnitude 4.7 earthquake Saturday morning was a foreshock to the bigger one that followed that night. They recorded at least 10 aftershocks by mid-morning Sunday and expected more. 2 of the aftershocks at 4 a.m. and 9 a.m. were big magnitude 4.0s. We will definitely continue to see aftershocks, as we've already seen aftershocks from this one, said Paul Earle, a seismologist with the U.S. Geological Survey in Golden, Colorado. We will see aftershocks in the days and weeks to come, possibly even months. It's a real mystery, seismologist Austin Holland of the Oklahoma Geological Survey said of the recent shaking. At this point, there's no reason to think that the earthquakes would be caused by anything other than natural shifts in the Earth's crust, Holland said. Most Oklahoma residents still see earthquakes as anomalies in a state more often damaged by tornadoes. Roger Baker, 52, laughed at the idea of buying earthquake insurance. Although the weekend quakes left a 6-foot-long crack several inches deep in his yard in Sparks. In state news, the Associated Press reports that survivors of a deadly bus crash on US 83 near Ballinger are being interviewed, but it will take time for investigators to determine why an Abilene Christian University bus left the highway and overturned, a state trooper said Saturday. It will be months from now before the completion of an investigation into the Friday night wreck that killed 1 person and critically injured 4 others, Trooper Phillips Sparky Dean wrote in an email. The school-owned bus was carrying 12 agricultural studies students, 3 faculty members and a faculty member's wife from Abilene to Medina, where they were going to spend the weekend doing mission work at a children's home. Authorities say the 34-year-old driver, faculty member Michael Nicodemus, lost control as the bus was entering a bend on US 83 near Ballinger. The vehicle hit a concrete culvert and did a complete roll, ejecting some passengers. Annabelle Reed, a student from Petersburg, was pronounced dead at the scene. The other 15 people on board were taken to area hospitals, where 4 were in critical condition, an ACU spokesman said. Dean said investigators were talking to survivors as they were able. Some were very injured, he said. Accident investigators also will return to the scene over the next few days or weeks before preparing a computer reconstruction of the crash. Dean declined to comment on the cause of the accident, saying only that a lot of possibilities were being considered. ACU junior Amanda Wilson, 20 years old, of Walsenburg, Colorado, told the San Angelo Standard-Times she suffered only some bruises in the wreck. She spoke at a candlelight vigil on campus late Friday in which students prayed and consoled one another. This is hard, and this has made it all easier, Wilson said. I thank everyone here. I pretty much came straight over here. Wilson and Reed were friends, and she described her as an amazing person, always full of life and always a joy to be around. Reed was among 23 ACU agricultural and environmental science majors who made the annual trip to the Medina Children's Home last year. She helped clear land, mow the yard, and move in a new family, according to a 2010 story posted on the school website. In Tarleton news, the Kappa Chi chapter of Sigma Chi held its annual Sigma Chi Fight Night at city limits on Friday. Students from the university were eligible to register to fight. Tickets were sold for $12 in the presale and for $15 at the door, and Sigma Chi also sold t-shirts featuring the event. Last year the event was also a big hit, and there was quite a crowd standing around the makeshift fighting ring. In sports news, Tarleton State defeated Division III Millsaps College in a 44-3 victory at Tarleton Memorial Stadium on Saturday afternoon. The Texans visit Angelo State next Saturday in their season finale game at 2 p.m. In high school sports, Stephenville defeated Waco High 56-21. Breckenridge beat Dublin 63-0. Hico defeated Millsap 35-0, and Glen Rose fell to Alvarado 37-9. Today, Weather Underground predicts a 60% chance of precipitation, with temperatures predicted to be a high of 76 and a low of 61. Isolated showers and thunderstorms remain possible throughout the day. Some thunderstorms may be severe in the afternoon. Today's broadcast was produced by Landon Haston, Presley Parks, and McCoy Renfro. You can follow us on ustream.tv/user/Texan News Service. Don't forget to become a fan of Texan TV News on Facebook and tell your friends about us. I'm Caleb McKegg. Tune in tomorrow for the latest news from the Cross Timbers area.